My first exposure to Berserk, other than video essays, was the 1997 anime. So to do a little tribute to that, I wanted to talk about 3 things in terms of character philosophy from that original 1997 anime. The first thing that I want to look at is the voiceover intro that accompanies every single episode that came out. It also is taken straight out of the manga, and there's an extra part to that intro that I'm going to cover later that's only in the manga. The second thing I'm going to cover is the Bonfire of Dreams, and the third thing being Griffith's speech on what makes a friend in his eyes. All these things tie together quite nicely, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, first things first, we should play the actual clip of the intro. It's pretty dope, and I know that not everyone is super fresh on watching the show.
In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Ultimately, I think there's 2 parts that can be dissected from this. The first one being the classic pondering question of, is there free will, or is there kind of, this string of destiny pulling everyone along? Of course it exists in the story setting and then also in real life. I think you've probably pondered before if any of your decisions matter, or if you have this kind of preordained destiny that you're fated towards. And I think taking it back into real life is pretty interesting. Of course, all of us in our own head want to think that everything we do is under our control, but then the outside world is very humbling and you realize you don't have control over much. And it can be very comforting to think that you have a path lined out for you, like, oh, it is my destiny to do something, and having this like kind of paradoxical mindset of like, I will push myself to get me where I'm supposed to be, because you're supposed to be somewhere great. I think this free will versus destiny concept exists in almost everybody's brain at some point or another. Where I think this gets super interesting is the second part of this excerpt that says that basically men don't have any control even over their will. Basically saying we don't know about destiny, but men don't even have control over themselves. I think this is the perfect time to jump over to Griffith's speech about what makes a friend to him. Trust me, we'll get back to the intro in a little bit. Now, I called it Griffith's speech about friendship, but really it's just a conversation he's having with the princess. And it all starts with him bringing up something they talked about earlier about men being barbarous. What a lovely word. And Griffith basically says that this side of men can be a tool to win things or protect things, which leads the princess to say, like love and friendship. But Griffith is talking about something else, something deeper, a dream. Guts is a character without a dream. One night as he looks over the bend of the hawk, he sees all the men and all their dreams, how it seems like they cast their dreams into one raging fire that won't go out. That fire is Griffith and his ambition. Meanwhile, Guts feels like his fighting is nothing but a random act, and his dream is nowhere to be found among the Hawks. Specifically, he said he was only someone who came to warm himself by the fire. Let's go back to talking about the intro, specifically how no man has control even over his own will. I think this is super interesting in terms of the story because we can see Griffith and his passion drive towards his dream. He's so captivated by it that it pushes him to the farthest extreme possible that we see with the eclipse. Also, through his speech to the princess, we can see all the effects of a dream or ambition can have over a man, freeing him to the greatest extent or caging him to the darkest, most starved extent. We can also, to the other side, look at Guts, a man who realizes that he has no purpose besides surviving and wants something to survive for. I think with these 2 characters we can see 2 sides to an example of not having control even over your own will. One character's dreams and desires push him so far that he almost doesn't have control over his own actions. He's too in deep. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Guts, a character who in his raw essence is just trying to survive. He has no will. His will is to use his sword to cut people down. Off topic, but this reminds me a little bit of Attack on Titan with the concept of everyone is a slave to something. Speaking of which, I've thought about doing an Attack on Titan video. Let me know if you guys would like that. In fact, this juxtaposition between both of our characters' perspectives is what leads to the conflict with Guts leaving the Hawks after Griffith expresses his feelings towards dreams and how a man must have a dream. And we see that Guts kind of just is a struggler, a survivor, a simple man, some might say, which just doesn't line up with Griffith's values clearly because he's so enslaved by his own dream. I talk about that and much more in my video, Berserk, Is It Evil to Follow Your Dreams?, which will be linked somewhere convenient if you guys want to check that out. So men don't have any control, even over their own will. What about the rest of the excerpt from chapter 1 of the manga I was talking about? The rest of it goes, man takes up the sword in order to shield the small wound in his heart, sustained in a far-off time beyond remembrance. Man wields the sword so that he may die smiling in some far-off time beyond perception. Besides specifically talking about Guts, I think this is trying to say that our actions are determined subconsciously about our past experiences and our future ambitions. And I say subconsciously because I think it's these things, these desires that maybe we're not honest with about ourselves, or the past things that hurt us that again we're not honest with. Those are the things that control our will deep down inside of us. And I think the craziest part about this quote is how it says far off time beyond remembrance and far off time beyond perception, because it goes to show how we're doing these actions for reasons we don't even understand. We can't even remember the past thing that shaped us to be who we are, and we can't even see the person that we're going to be, that we're striving to be, that we are subconsciously acting and becoming. All that being said, looking back at how we don't have control, how is this not super depressing? We can't control our own ambitions. We're controlled by things from our past, our future desires. How do we get anything good out of all of this? Personally, I think it comes from self-reflection and trying to put your best foot forward in no matter the situation. And I know that it's corny, but with these quotes talking about wielding a sword to defend a wound or to end up dying happily, I think if we can find a way to find peace within ourselves, at some point we won't need to wield a sword for either of those reasons, because we'll be at peace. And I think the way to get there is to truly try to know yourself and be honest with yourself. The more honest you are with yourself, the less subconsciously you're controlled by these things that you don't understand, and the more conscious decisions that you can make to better yourself, to be a kinder, nicer guy. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed looking into Berserk 1997, specifically the anime, with me, and you just had a great time. If you like this video, you'll love that one. Have a good day.